Welcome to Fanbrella Academy. Because of the complete lack of Fanbrella guides for advanced PvP, I decided to make this video. I would like to preface that I am by no means good at PvP. My reaction time isn't the best, but I managed to reach top 80 NA at the time of this recording. There's other way better Fanbrella players than me. You got Nayushi, Lemur, Awawa in NA East, and Metaphor, Emmy Fury, Talaz in NA West. Arguably, Nayushi is probably the only good Fanbrella player in NA. Realistically, anyone can be in the top 100 leaderboard. Top 30 is where the really good and low ping players are at. Why would you pick Fanbrella? Fanbrella is the least ping dependent weapon in Where Winds Meet. It has a low skill floor technically and physically, but a high skill floor when it comes to execution. Meaning you don't need rapid, precise inputs when it comes to doing punishing combos, but the difficulty comes from actually applying what you know to catch people to actually do your punishing combos. The biggest problem with the Fanbrella is the difficulty of catching good players. The weapon is a noob stomper, but does fall off in higher level play because of how easy it is to counter. Fanbrella's biggest counter is simply the block button. On top of that, so many of our engagements are highly telegraphed. High-level Fanbrella PvP requires a lot of mix-ups and conditioning to catch your opponents off guard. More often than not, all it takes is one slip-up from your opponents to win the game. These are the mandatory PvP attunements, especially the disc, because you straight up won't be able to do some of the combos here without it. Here are the essential Mystic skills. Meridian Touch is a must because it allows you to chain Fan Knockup and Windwall. Serene Breeze is a no-brainer. This allows you to break out of CC. Talent Strike is just way better than Yaksha. Drunken Poet for super armor trades. Dragon's Breath as an initiator and a finisher. Soaring Spin is not only part of the combo, but it also has the utility to turn a defensive perfect dodge into an offensive unblockable. Leaping Toad as part of our Vitality combo. It's also a decent panic button to stay protected. Number 8 can be Cloud Steps or Lion's Roar. Both Mystics can true combo into a knockup, but I personally prefer Cloud Step for the extra option to stay protected and avoid potentially lethal moments like Twin Blade, Rage Mode. Fanbrella's strength is its neutral game. The fan has the ability to cancel any Mystic arts using any of the fan abilities, making the fan a very safe weapon. For example, this allows you to use Talent Strike to fish for guard breaks and Serene safely by canceling it with Windwall. However, we have nothing to challenge melee weapons when they're up close, except for Drunken Poet. So do try to keep your distance. What I personally like doing is playing Ring Around the Rosie with the Windwall. Having a barrier that separates you between melee players not only fucks up their mental, but also limits their options. How should your neutral look? Your neutral should be passive. Harass the enemy with Fan to get damage advantage to incentivize them coming to you. This assumes you have damage advantage, having dealt more damage. You can do light attack, tab switch, or try to fish for a catch using dash light attack. Keep in mind, only the second hit of the dash light attack allows for a true combo follow-up into knockup. Your opponent will either respond by either parrying or blocking. You have two options, Meridian Touch or Talon Strike. If they start spamming parries, you can fish for a Meridian into knockup. If you're within Talon Strike range, you can try to fish for a guard break into a knockup. You have the option to let Talon linger because the swipe into knockup is also a true combo. Although your opponent has to hit the ground first before you can do a knockup. If you do it too early, you will miss it. The core part of any Fanbrella combo is knockup, scroll swap into stun. As a Fanbrella user, your goal is to catch your opponent into a knockup. Your goal in neutral is to get your opponent to pop their Serene Breeze. If your opponent has Serene, you can knock them up into Dragon's Breath to bait them into popping their Serene. If you want, it's also worth it to go for a stun after a knockup and trade Serene. Because for the next 30 seconds, your opponent doesn't have Serene Breeze. They basically have a floating skull on their head. Another important aspect of neutral game is knowing how to use Mystic skills to stay protected and which ones can true combo into a knockup. Mastering how and when to use Drunken Poet, Dragon's Breath, and Soaring Spin is essential. Not even just for a Fanbrella, for PvP in general. Here's how they true combo into a knockup. You can perfect dodge with Soaring Spin into a knockup. You can two-hit Poet into a knockup or hold Heavy Dash, two-hit Poet into a knockup. Dragon's Breath into a knockup or hold Heavy Dash, Flame Breath, then knockup. Or you can cancel Flame Breath into Talent Strike into a knockup. For your last Mystic skills, you have Cloud Step or Lion's Roar. You can Cloud Step into a knockup. You can Cloud Step, Jump Cancel, Heavy Drop Down Attack into a knockup. Or if you decided to use Lion's Roar, any hit of the Lion's Roar can lead into a knockup. So you can knock up after a Bell Drop or during the Roar itself. Both are true combos. Another catch you can do is Serene, Scroll Swap into Stun. That is a true combo because Scroll Swap cancels the Serene animation right into Stun. Even if your Serene doesn't stagger the enemy, throw out a stun anyway. Some players ego challenge post Serene, and it's basically a free catch. However, the 2.8 seconds tenacity attunement on your helmet is a must to pull this off. Now for the punish. You have two options to punish your opponent after a catch with a knockup, depending on how much vitality you have. But the initial part of the combo is always the same. Knockup, scroll swap, stun, soaring spin, stun. If you have vitality, do turret, toad, scroll swap, knockup, follow up. So you can use talent strike after execute and then finish the punish with dragon's breath after execution. If you don't have vitality, do turret, scroll swap, wind wall, knock up into follow up. I would say Fanbrella is in a decent spot in the meta right now, sitting comfortably at A tier. I would say the majority of the builds are A tier with three builds that I would consider S. There's barely a gap between the A tiers, but the gap between A to S is pretty big. The game just needs a few balance adjustments, but the PvP is pretty fun to play casually. That's it, guys. I hope this helps. I barely see Fanbrellas in the higher elo except for the same few people. I'll hopefully see you in the arena.